Welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you're as excited as I am. It's Wireless Tuesday. Wireless Tuesday is a monthly podcast that revolves around Cisco wireless LAN and related technologies. It's a way for me and my colleagues on the Cisco Global Wireless team to give back to the community that's given us so much. My name is Jason Grant, and I'm your host. Let's get it going. It's Wireless Tuesday.
Hey everybody, it is Wireless Tuesday. It's the most exciting day for me of the month. Hope it is for you. Here is a little bit of preview. There's going to be 2 Wireless Tuesdays this month. I have something exciting coming. I can't really talk a whole lot about it, but maybe there's something new on the horizon that I can talk about, and it is coming up. So look for that later this month. Today, I want to talk a little bit about DNA assurance. I want to give you an overview of DNA assurance just to make sure that, we kind of cut through some of the hype and some of the messaging that's out there. Some of it seems a little bit lofty. And it occurred to me when I was looking at new cars. I assure you there's no new car in my immediate future, but my son did just turn 16 and he's looking around for something to be his first car. And of course, we looked at, he wants like, hey, what about one of these cool new Teslas? Well, I was thinking about it. I'm like, this picture actually oftentimes is representative of the image that we try to create with the self-driving network or the intent-based network. This image represents kind of the network that I think a lot of us want to have, right? It has all this latest safety features. It's pleasing to the eye. It can even drive itself, right? It's that easy to drive. But there's a problem. This picture doesn't actually represent the network we have. I ran across another picture recently, and this is probably closer to the networks that we all have. Now, when I was managing a network, maybe it didn't look exactly like this, but the fact is that as network managers, oftentimes we work with an inherited network. We have to grow this network project by project with diminishing budgets. And, here you can tell that at one time the car was all the same color, but now it has a little bit of rust. All the wheels are different. The doors are bulletproof, but they're held on by duct tape, right? I thought that was pretty interesting imagery. It has a decent engine, but we don't know how long ago it was tuned. It has a bunch of aftermarket parts on it that we have no idea exactly what modifications have been made. Like, what if this was your Uber driver, right? We probably would be pretty reluctant to get in. Let's look at some pain points and talk about how this kind of proves the point. Because it's a big issue. There was a study that was performed by McKinsey & Company, and they learned that overall IT spends roughly 43% of their time troubleshooting. Now, of course, without a bunch of context, that number may seem way too big, but let's focus on kind of the reason why they looked at that in the first place. While troubleshooting, there's really no single source of truth. Oftentimes we need to go to a bunch of different systems that provide data in different formats. Intermittent issues always take longer to resolve because they need to be replicated before we can find a root cause. And Wi-Fi issues, they're notorious for taking just a long time to resolve. And what's worse, a lot of these issues that we have may never be fully resolved. We don't have full visibility, and they become that nagging pain that we just kind of learn to live with, right? What's the right number for you? Well, that number, the specific number, may not be important, but almost universally, when I go out and talk to customers, they agree that they spend too much time troubleshooting. And we would rather spend our time kind of doing things that benefit the company. And if we put this number into perspective, it's a pretty universal problem. I would like to kind of expose you to some statistics with our own Cisco IT service department and with our own help desk. And we look at trouble tickets that are not DC related, that are not data center related. You see that wireless access or access in general is half of the problems that they have to deal with. And when you're troubleshooting the source of a wireless issue, you need to look in just about every place on your network. I mean, it could be the network itself, it could be, right? But it also could be the uplinks to carriers, or it could be authentication or DHCP. The application could be slow to respond. All of these could be represented with that common complaint: the network is down. And customers are looking for a new way to provide the assurance that our network is going to do what it's intended to do. That's what they tell me, right? And here's a couple of universal and kind of compelling use cases that clearly lay out the value of having analytics through DNA assurance, which is part of DNA Center. Let's look at the issue of clients joining onto the network, oftentimes referred to as client onboarding. Like, if you wondered where a lot of IT and network troubleshooting time is spent, this is a major area. I mean, the first thing that we offer here is visibility. I mean, it may seem obvious, but if you've ever had to troubleshoot a client issue, and you know there's really no one source of information, if you don't catch the issue in time, the data could be lost forever. Assurance tracks client status and automatically detects issues and guides you through remediation. Now, where each of these use cases are compelling in their own right, different people in the business might be more interested. Like, line of business owners might be more concerned about their application being up, as opposed to, like, say, a network manager might be more concerned about the experience that their users have on their network. So I want to actually focus on one of those use cases, one that's, I'd say, probably one of the most prevalent, and it spans industry and business size. In this kind of demo, a user has called up the help desk with a particularly troubling complaint. They're on the network, but it took a really long time to connect. So, of course, they're connected, so we would normally write it off as a fluke, but let's see what DNA Assurance has to say. So we're going to start here in the main DNA Assurance health dashboard. We can see that there's a few clients that have poor conditions, but we look at the client onboarding widget down there in the bottom. We can see that there's a blue line in the pink area here indicating that the system has detected an issue. So let's drill down and see some more details. Now, in this client onboarding times page, we see that for the last 30 minutes, we see that over here, 37% of clients that connected to the network took longer than 10 seconds. Notice that there weren't any failures, so I guess that's a good thing, but there's a whole bunch of client devices out there in the last 30 minutes that have experienced a long time to get onto the network. Probably pretty frustrating. So let's go and dig in to one of those client devices. Here we see a particular client device. I don't know who it is, but we have, it looks like they haven't had the greatest experience on the network in the first place. But what I want to do is focus down here on this issues section, because we've already found that DNA Assurance has correlated information sources together to identify that a wireless client took a long time to connect to the Corp SSID. Well, that's exactly what the customer complaint was. Let's drill into that. So here we have a description, right? The client is taking longer than expected time to connect to Corp SSID due to an excessive time getting an IP address. Onboarding took 58.3 seconds. This information is so valuable because getting to this level of data normally takes, tens of minutes, if not longer, and we did it in just a couple of clicks. Now on the right-hand side, we see that there was a failure condition, and it was in the DHCP discover process. Let's dig into that. Now here we see that the client began to begin the process of connecting. Let's go ahead and scroll down. And now we've found the root cause of the issue here. The response from the DHCP server was delayed, so the system flagged that as red. Let's scroll over to look at some detail here. And it looks like the DHCP server sometimes takes a long time to respond. The issue wasn't the network itself, it was with the services, the DHCP server. So let's see how many client devices are impacted, and it looks like right now there are 2 client devices that also had the same issue. Now, that user that called in, by the way, the story isn't over. Turns out they're kind of a big deal. They manage an important component of the company's operation, and it's important that IT provides a stable, robust network for them. So we installed an AeroNet active sensor to monitor the service level agreement that we put in place. Let's go ahead and scroll down to see it. Now, as we see here, we have an active sensor that on a regular basis pretends that it's a client and attempts to connect to the network, right? Once it's there, it tests DNS, it tests out our application server, and it also tests out the dashboard web server that we have in place. The red areas here indicate failures, and we can easily correlate where there were several failures together. We go, oh, that was planned maintenance. That was at midnight we took down services and we were expecting a downtime. But at the time when a particular user was complaining at 7 a.m. the next morning, we can see that the network wasn't down and the sensor was detecting that all services were up. So in this case, the network isn't the problem, and we can prove it. So I know that I've probably opened up more questions than provided answers, and that's a little bit on purpose. I know the demo that I showed was not a live system, and I'm okay with that because all I wanted to do was prove a point and describe for you a value proposition of DNA assurance. If you go to cisco.com/go/DNAC demos, you can find several different demo resources. One where you can go and look at videos where Cisco's Jim Grubb talks about DNA assurance and the value proposition there. There's a self-guided demo where you can actually go and do, well, essentially what I did and see for yourself with a little self-guided demo. We have some videos where we do a walkthrough of how it all works. And then there are instant demos where you can actually go in and play a little bit with it with yourself in DNA assurance. So I know that you've heard this before, but I just want to define before we leave exactly what DNA assurance is. It's a feature, it's a capability of DNA Center, and it is what drives the concept of an SLA guaranteeing some intended services, right? It's 2 directions, from managing the systems to the infrastructure and the kind of the southbound operation to do things like validate configs, make changes, compliance, and audits. But it also is from the infrastructure to management in that northbound direction. So we can determine health of the network and users and devices and applications. We can troubleshoot quickly and predict issues and provide faster remediation. And DNA Center is the heart of the network management system, the foundational controller and analytics platform that is the digital network architecture. Now, once you have this in place, you can use DNA Center for the assurance component, providing analytics on your network. But you can also use it for automating your network and providing a lot more capabilities to your network that add a lot of extra value. Now, one of the reasons why we can do this is because we offer visibility unlike we have in the past and unlike anyone else can provide. We do not look at sampled information, kind of like a surveillance camera that can really only identify one person in 50. We have NetFlow and most importantly, streaming telemetry, and we can see and analyze everything that happens on the network. And that visibility is important for analytics. It's also a way that you can link to other parts of your own business so that we can use things like digitizing physical spaces in your network. I know that's a little bit different than assurance, but they do link together. And for more information on this and similar topics, head out to cisco.com/go/assurance. Certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to help out, or see your Cisco or partner account team. Thanks so much. Have a great Wireless Tuesday. And don't forget to tune in just a couple of weeks for a special edition of Wireless Tuesday.
This has been a presentation of Cisco's Wireless Tuesday. Be sure to continue the conversation at ciscofullbars.com, and at the top, click on the CFB Spark community. There, you can connect with scores of like-minded wireless LAN professionals. Be sure to subscribe to the Wireless Tuesday podcast using your favorite podcast player, and stay up to date by subscribing to the Wireless Tuesday newsletter at wirelesstuesday.fm. We will see you next month for an exciting episode of Wireless Tuesday.